Loma was the franchise champion. That's a way that the WBC has of stripping a guy without really stripping him. But then the regular champion is considered a notch below the franchise champion. But you say because you have that belt, you're disputing Teo's claim to the title?
No, the franchise title is a way to duck your mandatory. I have mandatories. I'm the WBC champion, and I have mandatories. When I was his mandatory, he petitioned to become a franchise champion to where he didn't have any mandatories. Devin Haney has mandatories. The franchise title is for ducks.
A franchise champion means you didn't have to fight your mandatory. That's a duck. So Devin collects the belt because what else is he supposed to do?
So when you say, you can't say Teofimo has all the belts or Teofimo's undisputed or Teofimo is the champion in the lightweight division because there's still one more belt. He has a franchise title. I'm the WBC world champion.
Do you believe at 20 years old you're ready for that type of challenge?
I think you said his name wrong. It's Nomachenko because he doesn't want to fight me. But it's I feel like I'm ready for the fight. This is the WBC mandatory. So Nomachenko, come on, man, let's get this fight going.
A lot of guys have said they want Lomachenko. You're the next on that list.
Nomachenko.
My mistake.
So Devin Haney forced Max Kellerman to admit that the WBC franchise title is a way to duck your mandatory if he's from the coincidental list while saving face in the process. Devin Haney treated Max Kellerman like another opponent in the ring. Whatever Max Kellerman stated, Devin countered him with facts, leaving Max Kellerman nowhere to go but face the truth that's in front of him, in which Max stated the franchise is a way for the WBC to strip a fighter of the title without really stripping him. We're going to take that as the political way of telling the truth.
Loma was the franchise champion. That's a way that the WBC has of stripping a guy without really stripping him.
You telling me they stripping someone without really stripping him? What sense does that make? That's equivalence of Teofimo wearing Devin Haney Jordans, and then when Devin Haney ran up on him, Devin forced Teo to take off his shoes. Then Teo resorted to rocking his flip-flops. And then Max Kellerman came on the scene and said, that's a way of Devin stripping Teo without really stripping him of his shoes. Now, does that make any sense? In that analogy, Teo and the shoes happen to be Lomachenko and the WBC in real life, when Devin Haney ran up on him in order to challenge him to fight for that WBC title as a mandatory. So again, when Max Hypocrisy Kellerman said the French fries title is a way to strip a fighter without really stripping him, what Max did was co-sign what Devin said on the show, which is the franchise title is nothing but a duck title for a duck champion that's looking to pay the WBC for witness protection. Usually, the fighters and the promoters pay the organizations in order to section fights by organizing a tournament or having the top two fighters on the organization fight each other for the title. This is the exact reason why fighters pay sectioning fees. As a champion, you pay sectioning fees in order to have challengers that's ranked on the top of your division. However, the sad truth, we in a time and a place where champions pay sectioning fees for witness protection. The likes of Canelo, Nomachenko, and now Teofimo Lopez, they pay the franchise sectioning fees for witness protection. And you all could thank the entrepreneur of the franchise designation, Canelo Alvarez, who requested, excuse me, who ordered for the franchise designation to be made in order to duck Jamal Charlo. And we know that's a fact because if he really wanted to make the biggest fights happen, then Charlo would have been the biggest fight at the time. I don't see Canelo Alvarez utilizing the franchise designation to avoid an unnecessary fight with the unknown Akhi, who's coming off a loss and a 2-year layoff. If the purpose of the franchise designation is to avoid unnecessary mandatories, how come Canelo Alvarez didn't activate his franchise designation to avoid this Akhi cherry pick that Canelo personally requested to be his next fight, the exact same way Canelo Alvarez requested the franchise title to come to existence? Why not utilize the franchise designation to make the Benavidez fight right now, the Caleb Plant, the Jamal Charlo fights? But we all know what time it is. Like Devin Haney said, the franchise is nothing but a witness protection program in the sport of boxing. The fact that Canelo is fighting Akhi next, this move completely exposed the WBC president definition of the franchise title designation, while co-signing the truth, which is what Devin said. The WBC franchise title is nothing but a duck title. So I have to give Devin a lot of credit, man, because he was extremely sharp. The fact that he did not let or allow the maximum hypocrisy Kellerman on ESPN to dance around the truth with lies and deceit. Like I tell you guys all of the time, the truth is a very powerful weapon when utilized correctly, especially with the voice Devin Haney has. He definitely brought the truth to light. And I really commend him for that, because whatever Max Hypocrisy tried, Devin always had an answer. Because one thing about Max Kellerman, he's very articulate with the way he misinforms the public and even asks the questions whenever he interviews fighters. For example, after Devin Haney pretty much checked Max Kellerman for falsely promoting Teofimo as undisputed, the maximum hypocrisy on ESPN went from claiming Teofimo is undisputed to Teofimo is the real champion. As if Devin Haney is a fake champion, because that's the only translation. The way the maximum hypocrisy tried to justify it by claiming Lomachenko had all the belts when Teo beat him, in which Devin quickly responded by informing the maximum hypocrisy that's not doing his homework that Lomachenko did not have all the titles because he was stripped of the WBC title like Riddick Bowe was stripped of his WBC title when he did not want to fight his mandatory Lennox Lewis. Funny how history repeats itself. Can someone please inform the maximum hypocrisy Kellerman to start doing his homework instead of allowing a 22-year-old fighter school him when it comes to the sport of boxing? It's getting embarrassing, to say the least. But back to the point. Unlike Riddick Bowe, Lomachenko have the complexion for the connection to get the ultimate protection. So in order to save face for the fighter that ESPN erased his loss on more than one occasion, Lomachenko requested the French fries belt to avoid Devin Haney, just like Canelo Alvarez did to avoid Charlo. Right? That's what Max Kellerman meant earlier when he said the WBC way of stripping a fighter without really stripping him is to give him a French fries belt in the process in order to save face to the public. I didn't see them give Riddick Bowe a French fries belt. Oh, silly me. Riddick Bowe happened to be from the coincidental list. Let's keep it moving. So, Teofimo later on petitioned by requesting for the French fries belt through email. Then, after beating Lomachenko, he ironically calls Devin Haney the email champion, when Teofimo was the one that requested the witness protection ahead of time through email. The audacity by Teo. That's equivalence of Teofimo Lopez stealing Devin Haney's shoes. Then Teo turns around and called Devin a thief. That's pretty much what Teofimo just did when he emailed the WBC for witness protection, utilizing the French fries protection program. Then after beating Lomachenko, he calls Devin Haney the email champion. Teofimo been avoiding Devin Haney since the WBC tournament, but he calls the boogeyman the email champion when Teofimo is the one ordering witness protection through email. I mean, the audacity of it all. But the fact that Max Kellerman wanna still claim Teofimo is the real champion. In other words, Devin Haney title is not the real title, because on ESPN, they said Devin Haney title is meaningless. So, let's go by that biased narrative for the moment. If the franchise title is the real title, and the WBC title that Devin Haney has is not the real title, so who are the real WBC champions outside of the lightweight division, at the welterweight division, at the super welterweight division, at the middleweight division, so on and so forth? From Errol Spence to Jermell Charlo to Jamal Charlo, and the list goes on and on and on. All of them champions have the same title Devin Haney has. None of them champions have the French fries witness protection WBC title. So it's clear as day which is the real title and which is the fake title. The WBC title that Devin Haney has is the same title Muhammad Ali held, Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather, and all the legendary fighters held. And it's still to this day the real title that Errol Spence holds, Jamal and Jermell. The only two that have French fries witness protection titles are Teofimo and Canelo Alvarez for the moment, because they paying for that witness protection. So to all of the decafs and the decafs wizard himself, the maximum hypocrisy Kellerman on ESPN, if Devin Haney is not the real WBC champion, then by Max Kellerman logic, Errol Spence, Jermell, Jamal, Perchet, Floyd Mayweather, Andre Ward, Mike Tyson, Muhammad Ali, none of them were or they are real champions if we going by the maximum hypocrisy Kellerman logic, since Devin Haney holding the same title the current champions are holding, or the former champions held before, the legendary champions, the likes of Muhammad Ali, Lennox Lewis, Mike Tyson, Riddick Bowe, and the list goes on and on and on. I really could go all day. But the $1 million question for Max Kellerman: who are the real champions, the former champions that held the franchise title before? What former champions that retired which held this real title? I'm going to be waiting all day because there's none. Since Canelo Alvarez is the entrepreneur of bringing this witness protection title to existence. Furthermore, Max stated that the franchise is a way to elevate you to get by mandatories if you have more than one belt, because that way a fight is going to end up having more than one mandatory. But we know that's not the case for Teofimo Lopez, since the Composers mandatory is not due anytime soon. He has a whole year to fight Composers. Second of all, the whole purpose of the franchise designation is to make the biggest fights happen for the franchise. Well, the two current WBC franchise champions, Canelo and Teo, is doing clearly the opposite. Canelo fighting a fighter coming off a lost and 2-year layoff, Akhi. On the other hand, Teofimo is ironically fighting his mandatory instead of fighting Devin Haney, which is the whole purpose of the franchise designation, is to make the biggest fights happen for the organization. The fight that Mike Tyson wants to see, in which recently Mike challenged Teofimo to fight Devin, and slowly but surely Teo declined. It's funny because Max always criticized Money Mayweather for being a businessman, even though as Money May, Floyd fought the best and made the biggest fights happen, from Sugar Shane Mosley to Manny Pacquiao to Canelo, Maidana, and the list goes on and on and on. which I'm going to leave the video of me pointing out the hypocrisy by Kellerman in the comment section below, so check it out. So Max falsely criticized Floyd Mayweather of being a businessman. In the meantime, he tells Teofimo Lopez, who haven't even proved or did 5% of what Floyd Mayweather did. He tells Teofimo he does not have to prove himself anymore. Like Teo is about to retire tomorrow or something. Even when Floyd Mayweather was about to retire. Matter of fact, when Floyd Mayweather retired, ESPN and Max Kellerman kept pressing Floyd to fight Gennady Golovkin at a weight division Floyd Mayweather never fought at. But the man who's still in his prime, Teofimo, Max Kellerman tells him he does not have to fight Devin. He could go ahead and fight Composers or whoever he want to fight. You see the double standards and the hypocrisy by the decaf wizard, Max Kellerman. I want you guys to check Floyd Mayweather after he demolished Corrales. And in the fashion he did it in. Pretty Boy was equivalence of Devin Haney today. He was the boogeyman. Nobody wanted to fight him. You think Max Kellerman is going to tell Floyd as Pretty Boy, yeah, you don't have to fight nobody. You could go ahead and fight whoever you want to fight? Absolutely not. We know what time it is. It's all about that NBF. And last but not least, Max Kellerman had the audacity, after Devin Haney pretty much put him in his place, to say we could debate about the undisputed for the next hour. Hold on, wait a minute. If you need an hour to debate if Teo is undisputed, then he's not undisputed. Maximum hypocrisy Kellerman, he might want to Google what undisputed means. Undisputed means there's no discussion. There's no one with a title but the undisputed champion. There is no debate if someone is undisputed. You want me to prove it to you? Oh, let's debate if Crawford was undisputed at 140. Yeah, let's debate if Usyk was undisputed at cruiserweight. What the hell are we going to debate about? If Crawford and Usyk had all the titles. That's how silly you sound, Max. You want to debate for an hour when it comes to Teofimo being undisputed? That means he's not undisputed. And all Akhi need is less than a minute to prove it to you. Go ahead and point out any boxing website, from BoxRec to you name it, that have Teofimo listed as undisputed. There are none, which further proves my point. Teofimo is not undisputed. He's only unified, and Devin Haney is the WBC champion. With all the facts being laid out, I'm just glad Maximum Hypocrisy Kellerman was confronted with the truth. Devin, who gave it to him, who put him in his place because he have a powerful voice. We talking about Devin Haney, the most avoided fighter, the A-class boogeyman in the sport of boxing. I mean, just think about it, guys. A pound-for-pound fighter, Lomachenko, ducked him and paid for witness protection. Ryan Garcia, his mandatory, is avoiding him. Last time that took place was against Errol Spence. Then you also have Teofimo, who requested witness protection ahead of time. I've never seen that done before. There's also Tank, who Devin is pressing all type of buttons, and Tank is just not blasting. So this ain't a coincidence. I tell people all of the time, there's a lot of fighters in the sport of boxing that are overhyped, for sure. But when there's a fighter that's respected by his peers, when there's a fighter that the rivals of his treat him like the boogeyman, then that's how you know he's special, because I'm not hyping him up. The fans are not hyping him up. The fighters, the rivals of his, are hyping him up. which says a lot to say the least. There is no doubt about it. If Floyd Mayweather is the Michael Jordan in the sport of boxing, then Devin Haney is the Kobe for sure. We're definitely going to talk about this interview in particular on Split Decision, so join me tomorrow.
How did you choose Lomachenko? Because
I did not choose him. He requested, Canelo requested. So we sent out a vote and we analyzed his history.
Ooh, Canelo and Lomachenko requested?
Absolutely.
Ooh, you just made headlines.
Lomachenko,
You just made headlines.
Lomachenko, top rank, requested. And let me tell you, we analyzed the request. Top of the top.
Define the franchise belt. Can you define it?
The franchise is not a belt, it's not a championship, it's a designation given to elite, unique fighters who carry the industry of the sport of boxing. Canelo Alvarez and Lomachenko are two sensational fighters who carry the industry.
Subscribe below if you're trying to get smarter by the minute. If you're trying to get dumber by the second, don't. I listen to these decafs, the dumb, casual ass fans / old media that don't know shit about boxing. Word to Roger Mayweather, may he rest in peace, inshallah. Shout out to my broski, my Akhi Dante, the entrepreneur of new media that I'm a part of. New media narrative is the whole absolute truth, which Akhi put it together like puzzle every single time. So to all the casual fans that want to be hardcores and hear the truth every single time, all you have to do is click on the notification bell to get notified every time I post or go live on Split Decision. Is a boxing debate / talk show, mixed, master, engineered, produced by yours truly, Akhi. The past, present, and future undisputed pound for pound when it comes to debating. I got these decafs shook. They scared to look every time Akhi's on TV because the truth is always bad news for these decafs. The truth is their kryptonite. These decafs treat Akhi like the boogeyman of debating, like the young Devin when it comes to debating. With that being stated, subscribe, click on the notification bell, and to be continued on the next episode of Akhi, Akhi, Ak TV. Peace, and we out here.